Good evening and welcome to tonight's licensing subcommittee meeting. My name is Councillor Paul Alexander and I will be chairing tonight's meeting. If I lose connection and I cannot reconnect, Councillor Borroquan will take over for me. I'd like to remind all participants of a few housekeeping points. Please keep your microphones muted unless you are speaking. Please keep your camera turned on when you speak at the hearing. Please note that the chat function has been disabled. If parties wish to add any additional information other than at their allotted time to speak, they must use the raise the hand function so that they are not missed. I also ask that members keep their questions and comments brief and to the point. I now move to item 1 on the agenda. Apologies for absence.
No apologies for absence.
Thank you. We note that the objector has so far not arrived at the meeting, and when I'm called, when he's called, if he's not here, then we'll move on from that and mark him as not attending. Declarations of interest, councillors.
None from me.
None from me either.
Item 3, Safe Breeze, 159 to 161 North End Road, London, W14 9NH. I'd like to ask everyone participating to introduce yourselves as I call you. We should have with us, firstly, Ms. Samreen Nawaz, the applicant. I understand she's not attending. Adrian Curtis, agent. If you would just answer present.
Yeah, sorry, my internet was wobbling then for some reason. Yes, I'm present, Adrian Curtis. I'm the solicitor applicant's representative.
Thank you. Lorna McKenna, licensing officer.
Present.
Thank you. Karen Leo, licensing officer.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Emmanuel Lamponsa, the council's legal officer.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Objectors, we don't seem to have any attending. Procedure. May I quickly explain the procedure that the committee will follow? We will hear from the following. The licensing officer will introduce the application. No objectors have registered to speak. Finally, the applicant. Usually, each party will address the committee once for a maximum of 5 minutes. Following the presentation by all parties, the committee may ask questions of any party or other persons present at the hearing. Except committee members, no party has the right to ask questions of any other party at any time during the hearing. Following the presentation and questioning, each party will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to sum up their case or representation. The committee will then retire for deliberations. Upon its return, I will announce the committee's decision. Licensing officer, can I ask the licensing officer, Lorna McKenna, to introduce the application, please?
Yes, Chair. On the 15th of May 2023, Adrian Curtis of Kenneth Curtis and Co-Solicitors submitted an application on behalf of Miss Samreen Nawaz, the applicant, for a new premises licence to be granted in respect of the premises known as Safe Breeze 159 to 161 North End Road, London, W14 9NH. The applicant has applied for a new premises licence, which is proposed to be a convenience store / mini supermarket, and is applying for the licence of all activities for the sale of alcohol off the premises only. The original application, as applied, was for the sale by retail of alcohol off the premises Monday to Sunday from 6 AM to 2300 hours, and proposed opening hours Monday to Sunday from 6 AM to 2300 hours. On the 24th of May 2023, following correspondence with the police, the applicant agreed to amend the hours for the sale of alcohol off the premises and agreed to add 2 further conditions to the licence if granted. The application licensable hours were amended to the following: the sale by retail of alcohol off the premises Monday to Sundays from 7 AM to 2300 hours. During the consultation period, the licensing section received 1 representation from a local resident objecting to the licensing application. No responsible authorities raised any representations, and the application was advertised in alignment with the requirements of the legislation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Nowers isn't here. Will you be speaking, Mr. Curtis, for her?
Yes, and if there's any further background regarding the business, they've been in this business for quite a while. Mr. Afzel's here to represent her in terms of information I may not know, but I've dealt with the family for 15 or so years myself. So yes.
Thank you. So we don't have any objectors to speak, and I will invite the applicant, stroke Mr. Curtis, to now speak, please.
Thank you very much. So you've heard from the licensing officer at Lorna that we applied for the license. We advertised it in accordance with the legislation. The blue notice was outside the premises for the requisite period of time, and the advert went in the local newspaper. After the application had gone in, there was consultation with the police, and a meeting was arranged on a Zoom call with PC Chris Caldwell of Hammersmith Police. It was a useful call. It gave us some very interesting background in relation to the area. And upon that call, it was agreed that the hours would be reduced in the application, as you've heard from the licensing officer, to 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. But further and very significantly, there was 2 additional conditions added to the license at that stage. To go back to the conditions, well, the new additional conditions were, importantly, that alcohol, beer or cider above 5.5% ABV would not be able to be sold under condition on the license, which is the direct background to that, as I'm sure you know, councillors, is the issues with street drinking that seem to migrate around different boroughs of London. And it's and I understand there's been fantastic push from your council to stop that continuing in this borough. And I understand there's regular meetings with the police every week, I believe, which is astounding and excellent. The conditions that directly the people generally drinking on the street and people with alcohol issues are targeting the higher strength ciders, in particular K cider at 8% and other similar types and other products. So the store will not be able to sell those items, which the police were very comfortable with, to target any issues. And also with the reduction of times, it was moreover looking to sort of generally fall into what other areas, other shops have in the local vicinity. We believe from the police consultation, we believe we fell outside of the area of coordination when there's local football matches on, which was interesting and good to hear. And also that no sealed vessels of alcohol, open vessels, will be allowed to, by condition, leave the store. The conditions in the application itself, though, there was background done, and the policies and suggested conditions for the borough were looked into. My clients and experienced that they're experienced licensees. They've operated numerous stores around the West Midlands over the time. They still operate a store with the same name called Safebury on the Hagley Road in Birmingham. Approximately 15 years ago, we just soon after the Licensing Act came into force, we obtained a 24-hour license for that premises. It's a very busy road exiting one side of Birmingham. So they've been dealing with very late or 24-hour shops and selling alcohol with the challenges that comes with. So they're fully aware of the challenges faced with selling alcohol and the things to be cautious of. I remember the meeting with the police over that application. It was the first in Birmingham, and there wasn't much appetite for it. And you know, things are very much a different position now in Birmingham. There's many 24-hour shops. In relation to specifically the conditions in the application, which have not been altered in any way, There are the designated premises supervisor or another qualified person must train all staff at the premises on the basic laws of selling alcohol, compliance with conditions on the premises license, and the log of this training must be maintained, and the log can be inspected by any responsible authority upon request. There's been a brand new fit out at the store, and Mr. Afzal can answer questions on details of that investment, and also, but effectively there's a brand new digital CCTV system. The application condition is that a 28-day period, full access is given to responsible authorities, and the system must be to the reasonable satisfaction of the police, and the system must have an image download capability and operation at all times when licensing activity is taking place. Spirits will not be capable of customer self-service, which is a further condition. Signage will be prominently displayed at times when alcohol is available to be sold. A challenge that's in case the hours of sales are different to the authorised hours. A Challenge 25 policy will be operated by the premises, with notices informing customers of the policy being displayed, with at least one sign on the door, one display behind the counter. Staff must be trained on this policy. The staff will be regularly reminded, trained to enforce the Challenge 25 policy. Again, each one of these are conditions which would form part of any licence that is permitted from the outcome of today's hearing. All alcohol refusals must be noted in a refusals register. This can be inspected again by any responsible authority upon request. And the only acceptable identification would be a passport, a photo driving licence, or a recognised proof of age card. And then either a physical till prompt must be on each of the tills reminding staff on the Challenge 25 policy, or an electronic till prompt should be on the till set up and activated on alcohol sales. So our position is the application was thought through, detailed conditions were proposed in the application. We believe that reasonable times were applied for. It was the planned opening operational times of the premises, because they do newspapers, etc., with 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. The police were listened to, and my client was happy to alter those hours. Following all of that, there's been, as you've heard, one representation against the application from a local resident. We're not sure of the location of that person. We're not entitled to that information. The local resident's objection states there were already too many alcohol shops operating these hours, therefore there is no need for another one. The elements of that representation are not admissible under competition law. However, to try and avoid today's proceedings, which is in the bundle of documentation, we did reluctantly seek to try and get agreement to stop this. You know, the process of organisation of this hearing is substantial. The amount of people on the hearing is substantial, and the amount of time and cost it takes is substantial. However, we, as the licensing authority, the licensing officer Lorna can say, there's been no response since the representation has gone in against the application. There's been numerous attempts to contact, I believe, by email, and there's not been a response, and they've not turned up to voice anything verbally today. We can't make submissions on why that is. We can only the objection was accepted based on the policy of the borough, which is to err on the side of caution. It touches on things which are not admissible, but certain things. They mention antisocial behaviour on this part of the area, and the shops we do not want shops to motivate people to drink early morning or late evening, which results in lots of problems. There's also hostels and people with care who are already vulnerable. And he asked, I hope you understand for the neighbours, the point of view. There's only one objector, which has got to be extremely a very valid submission by the applicant, because there isn't. I understand that there is a very active resident groups that operate in the near vicinity to these premises. They haven't objected. it seems that it's falling outside of the area to do with the football zone of the football control. I don't have full details on that. Her PC call was telling me all about that. We believe that the application as amended by the police would promote the four licensing objectives, because the conditions proposed in the initial application and the strengthening with the police agreed conditions would not cause the issue. The applicant and their family are very experienced operators. Mr. Afzel's here representing, so would invite questions about their background a little bit further if there are any. In relation to my submissions, we believe that the application will not cause issues, and they'll promote by the licensing objectives by following those conditions. And it isn't too late to application or to an early application, but we'd invite questions at that point. I think there's limited further I can say because there's no submissions from the objector.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask committee members to ask questions of any party about the applicant, about the application, and any issues that have been raised at the hearing? Councillor Stanton.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much, Mr. Curtis. That was very, very useful. I do have probably just one or two questions for Mr. Afzal. Have I got your name correct? Is that correct, Mr. Afzal? He seems to have frozen. Right. Well, I'm hoping you can hear me. Yeah, my question is, well, there's two things. One, I would actually make a comment which may or may not be helpful to the applicant, which is that whilst you're quite right that the area does fall outside the general football area or the football areas, around Fulham Football Club, Chelsea Football Club, Loftus Road, etc. However, you should be aware that the famous Three Kings pub, which is really just about 50 yards away from you, it can often be extremely busy, and that will be affected by sporting events other than kind of the normal local ones, Chelsea and Fulham, etc. So do bear that in mind. I say that I should give. It's not a declaration as in the formal declaration you give at the beginning of the meeting, but I am very nearly one of your neighbours, so I kind of give you that as some neighbourly advice. My question, though, is this really, which is, I was going to ask about your history and which other premises you currently run. Mr. Curtis has kindly told us that you do run, I think, at least one premise in the West Midlands. So my question to you really is this, is why London and why now? And then the follow-up question to that is, are you currently based in the West Midlands? And if that's the case, how much hands-on management will there be by kind of yourself or the family of this premise if you're also concurrently running premises in the West Midlands? That's for Mr. Afzal, if he can hear me.
Are you there, Kashif?
No.
I can see him now. You're on mute.
Would you come off mute and then I'll be able to hear you?
Is it okay now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can
Yes.
hear you.
Yes, sorry. Sorry, I didn't.
Were you able to hear Councillor Stanton's question?
Kashif, if you can hear me, Mr. Afzal, I suggest turn off your video. Just do verbal submissions, because it could be your internet strength.
He's gone. He's dropped out.
Right.
Mr. Curtis, can I perhaps ask you to
Yeah.
fill in on his behalf?
Yeah. Well, there's the family have more than two. Certainly, there's certainly hearings over the last number of years. I'm just not sure whether they might have sold them, but the operating one on the Hagley Road, Birmingham, which is 24 hours and substantial sized premises, just as you come out of Birmingham, right at the start of Hagley Road, so effectively walkable to the city centre. They have one, I'm sure, in Wolverhampton. Let me just check my actual records, because I'll have documents on my laptop, which will give me a little bit more detail.
Can I stop you for 1 second?
Yeah.
My real questions are the two real questions are these, because you've given me the background of other properties. Yeah. That's fine. My real question is why now London? And the second question relates to kind of, if they are based in the West Midlands,
yes,
how much time are they going to be able to devote to London? Now, it may be that the answer is that they're moving all their operations, their base of operations to London. But I'm just curious, really, as to those two questions.
So, in terms of what the applicant and the designated premises supervisor is Mr. Afzal's sister. They know about the control on all. It's obviously it's a business that requires strong management in terms of dealing with the cash, staff training, security, all sorts of things. So they're fully aware, and it isn't that far. In reality, it isn't that far between Birmingham to London to be able to manage those things. But I know through the build of this place, Mr. Afzal has been down there most of the time, coming back. He's definitely hands-on family in terms of this operation. So I don't think they're not big enough to be able to employ lots of expensive managers to be doing it for them. They're going to have to be hands-on as a family, because there's different mouths to feed in the family that rely on these businesses. So that's what I know. The deal we struck before, I spoke to Mr. Afzal earlier. He'll do all the background and the current background, and I'll deal with the more technical licensing points. But as I say, I have acted for them for 15 odd years, and I've seen all sorts of applications for licensing, and so they've certainly got the experience to know what they're doing. And I just don't have the detail on if someone's actually living or moving down there, or they're just going to commute it, or what. But hopefully Mr. Afzal can you hear us, Casif? I can see you're back on.
Yeah. Can you hear me as well, Adrian?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. I've got the councillor's question. Yes, we are planning to obviously move down there to obviously for the time being rent a place. And the question about why London is because that's all it has been on our agenda, but we've never managed to find a suitable place, or obviously be in the area of central. That's where we've always had our mind frame, and we always wanted to be in central London. So obviously we had this opportunity, so we've took it.
Thank you. No, that's great. In which case, thank you very much to both of you. Chair, that I think is it for me.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Stanton. Councillor Kwon, do you have any questions?
Thank you. My questions, I think it could
Sorry
be
to interrupt
either...
you, Councillor. Could I ask those who are not speaking to mute their microphones, please? Thank you. Please continue.
My question is either to Mr. Curtis or to Mr. Afzal. Given the background of the area, which you will have received both from Councillor Stanton this evening and also from PC Caldwell, and based on past experience of running this business, do you have preparations for things like security, either early morning or late in the evening, if there was to be instances of antisocial behaviour, and also engagement with local residents groups and so on, if necessary? I think we tend to think of like adults drinking and abusing sort of long licensing hour premises, but it may also be underage children and so on. Some, I know that you all outlined sort of age verification checks, but I think robust security and sort of communication with local community members and groups is really important when you're establishing a business that has the potential for antisocial behaviour. Thank you.
The response to that is, yeah, I mean, the engagement they've already been with the police was very constructive. So that my clients will fully engage with what's necessary and to see. But I don't think there's plans to put immediate SIA registered badge people on the door straight away. In terms of the hours sought, one would hope that's not necessary. But they've got a lot of expensive stock and a lot of money's gone into the renovation of this store, and the project's been running for quite a few months, so they've got a lot to protect themselves and to make it work. And if the customers don't feel comfortable coming in the shop because of antisocial behavior, they're not going to come back. So one would hope that will not be the case, but they'll have to respond to, as they have to now, what comes in and what challenges they've got to face. In terms of underage people coming in, the Challenge 25 policy as condition should nail that one, because the children won't be getting alcohol, because they're certainly not going to look over 25. My clients are aware of proxy sales and all the usual things that go with things like that. In terms of people sending it in adults to buy on behalf of the kids. So hopefully their experience will come through. But I mean, certainly the area at the start of Hagley Road is a very challenging, or can be a very challenging area, particularly very late at night. So I'm pretty sure they've seen a lot of challenges, which and they've maintained that license for more than a decade. So I think they're going to be, running a good premises. But Kashif, would you like to contribute further if you can unmute?
Yeah, well, the only thing I can add is obviously the history will speak for itself. Obviously, being the store we've run for the past 15 years, obviously, we've never had any issues with the local authorities, even with the police. We've always had a good, obviously, output from them as well, and never had any issues. Challenging, obviously, underage drinking, we've always been on the top of that. We've never had any issues whatsoever. So I don't see that being an issue in London, because we're quite good and controlled over that, them sort of points, because we've been quite strict. So all staff members are trained to challenge everybody. So if you ever, even if you think they look older, still challenging for ID, no problem. If they have no ID, no sales, that's very strict policy. And we maintain that in every store we have.
Yeah. Can I ask, the store that you operate currently, have you had experience of a noisy pub like the one that Councillor Stanton described is in the area, and experience of dealing with that? And that question, sorry, is to Mr. Afzal.
The store we have currently at the moment, yes, we do have a pub right on the corner, and it is quite a busy pub. Noisy where I wouldn't say as much noisy, but yes, and we've always tackled with every issue, never had a problem. So we've been quite responsible how we've been. So we've been running it really well. So I don't see any issues. We've never had any issues with anybody at the moment, and hopefully in the future we won't do as well. But I don't know if you come on video call. I am in the store right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just wanted to know whether you had experience, for example, of liaising with the pub to, if for closing, after last orders to, if you get a big influx of drinkers coming into the store, buying alcohol, drinking on the street, have you had to deal with that situation? But it sounds like you have had experience of running a licensed premises outside a pub or in the vicinity of. So that was all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, that's no problem. Yes, we have done. We've had it, and we're doing it for the past 15 years. So we've got plenty of experience in that field.
Okay, thanks. No further questions from me, Chair. Chair, you're on mute.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions, if I may, really relating to the location. As you're probably aware, you're on North End Road, very close to the junction of the West Cromwell and Talgarth roads. As you'll see, these are on 24-hour double-lined red routes where vehicle stopping is not permitted whatsoever. There's also It's one of the highest areas of accidents, of people being killed and seriously injured in this location. I have two parts to my question. One is how you're going to manage your deliveries and travelling to and from if you're bringing vehicles with you. And secondly is how would you manage your customers if they start pulling up and stopping late at night at that junction and causing hazard to other road users?
Yes, first thing for the deliveries and for our self-parking, we have parking at the rear of the store. It's a gated place, we have access from the back. I think it's Edith Grove or Edith Field, it's called the road name. So we have access from there. So for deliveries, that's not a problem even for parking. Second question regarding, obviously, yes, we are aware it's obviously red lined outside. Parking wise, obviously, we can only advise customers not to park there, even if they do so. But we are more concentrated on deliveries, instead, to be honest with you. So obviously, with the local residents offering a free delivery service, that obviously that is quite in now. Everybody's into deliveries. Nobody really wants to go out shopping in stores much. So we are looking at that perspective as well. So hopefully that should tackle a lot of the issue. But hopefully we do expect them not to park. Obviously, abiding the law, seeing is double red lines. So, but there's only so much control we'll have over that. Obviously, advising the customers not to park there and park safely. That's the only thing we can do.
If you were able to, might you be able to refuse a customer if they were parked on the double red lines? So just to be clear, this is not simple parking legislation. It is a very, very dangerous junction. It has probably one of the highest traffic throughputs of any road in London. And I can personally tell you that as a 5-year-old child, my GP was run over on that junction, and you'll see all the cameras and all the rest of it. There are frequent, very, very serious accidents at this junction. So it's just really trying to keep it clear and not giving extra work for the authorities to deal with people who are illegally. And I do say that with some sense of sympathy and apology for asking you that, but I hope you'll understand there is an issue.
Well, I'd like to go in there. I mean, the business doesn't want to attract people thinking it's acceptable to park outside on the red route and then pop in to get some cigarettes or something and move on. So I think that's a very valid point. I'm sure Mr. Afsar will take that on board, because it could even put a notice up to state so, because that's not the business is looking for. Because if someone was seriously injured due to somebody popping into his shop and they served him, he's not going to feel very good about that. So it is a valid question, but Mr. Afsar, what would you feel about such a condition as having a poster or training your staff, don't serve people if you physically see them walking in with a parked car? But I accept Mr. Afsar's position. They don't necessarily always know where they've parked.
Of course.
Before you answer, I would just sort of clarify. It would be difficult. I can't think of a really good wording for an effective control of traffic by the applicant. I'm just trying to see what they could do to help mitigate the problem, rather than make it as an onerous condition.
Well, yes, I understand. It's probably dealt with. It's probably not right under the Licensing Act 2003 either. But I think Mr. Afsar must listen to the advice from local police and anyone associated with that regulation, and follow their guidance and do what they can as a responsible operator. I do know that the Hagley Road where they are it's not as severe as that, but certainly it's right on the junction as you come out, and it's an extremely busy road. So that's where their 24-hour shop is, and I'm pretty sure you can't park outside. I think it's double yellows all the way down that part of the Hagley Road. Is that right, Kassif? You're on mute, Kassif.
Yeah, that is correct. I'm currently at the store right now anyway.
Yeah. So, sorry, just to clarify, if it was double yellows, I don't think we'd be having this discussion. It is that it's double. It's double red, and it has a very, very high accident toll at that junction, which is not caused by your applicant. And as you'll see by the red lines outside, which is great that you've gone outside to have a look. That's to your credit. The junction itself is also controlled by Transport for London, with only some aspects falling to the local authority. So it's a specialist Transport for London policing rather than the police you would have spoken to about the licensing thing. As I say, it's not a formal issue with the Licensing Act, but I would like to see, for everybody's benefit, that we don't create we don't create circumstances where there's going to be people injured because of your customers are just pulling up outside and hoping they can be faster than the authorities to nip in to buy something.
Of course. Yes, that would be something we definitely will be looking at. And as you did rightly speak, if we could obviously refuse the customer, we will, of course, why not? You know, obviously, first thing we will tell them to park safely. If they park, especially right outside the store in our visibility, we'll ask them to move their car and refuse sell. That's obviously something we can do, because the last thing we want is to obviously cause any issues with the local authority. Obviously, police doing their job, this is the last thing they would need to do, because obviously they have serious other incidents to deal with in the area. And obviously we would advise the customer to move their car, and we'll be happy to serve them. If not, then obviously they'll have to just find another store. That's what we can do.
Thank you very much for that answer. Councillor Stanton, do you have another question?
Yes, Chair, I do. Thank you very much. Mr. Afzal, you mentioned a delivery service. I was just wondering if you could outline exactly what you meant by that. In particular, how would it operate? So how would people be ordering their deliveries, and would you be providing your own drivers or riders, or would you be using a third-party provider like Uber Eats or Deliveroo? And if so, which of those, and just essentially how much business are you expecting or hoping to do through this?
Yes, no problem. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So we will be looking at obviously Uber or Deliveroo. That's what we'll be looking at. We have trialed it in our Hagley Road store. It was okay. It was nothing special. But with London, the only thing we are going to be looking to do is a trial run to see how we obviously if it does go well, and obviously. It's looking at the drivers, because there's a pizza place a few doors up from us, and we obviously had a little chat with them as well, and they said their riders park across the road from the pizza shop, which has a cafe on the corner as well. So there's like a biker riders stop. They can stop there. So hopefully that's where they will be parking if anything was to go down that route.
They do. If depending on which cafe you're referring to, if you're talking about Continente.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, so the entrance, the road that is on, which is that Gwenda, is actually a one-way road.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, which means that anyone parking there would only be able to go west.
Straight up.
Yeah, straight up to Edith Road. They wouldn't actually be able to access the North End Road from having parked there. Well, at least they wouldn't be able to legally.
No, there'll be no, because what the riders do, they park their bikes there and they cross the road over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on from that particular bit of one way, which is something I've had my eye on for quite some time. So can you just tell me then the focus? What is it that you think that you will be selling via delivery? Will it be kind of groceries, or is it more of an alcohol offering that you're looking at?
No, most likely grocery. It'll be grocery mainly.
Okay, thank you. Chair, I think that's it for me in terms of questions.
Thank you, Councillor Stanton. Any further questions, Councillor Kwan?
None from me, thank you.
Thank you both. If there's no further questions, we'll move on, and I will ask parties to sum up as briefly as possible in the following order. Firstly, the licensing officer.
Nothing further to add, Chair.
Thank you. And finally, from the applicant.
I think we've had a good discussion. I think we've gone through in the details. It's when you haven't. There's no objector here for me to summarise against what they've said, so it's a bit peculiar. I think we've discussed all the main points. My summary is that I think the application as amended with a consultation with the police to the reduced hours of 7 till 11, with the conditions added to, as well as the operational conditions put in the application, would promote the would promote the licensing objectives. And also there seems to be, great support for operators in terms of local knowledge about things, which they're going to pick up on from being open and when they're there. So and certainly, going through the process of the consultation with the police and how active that the licensing authority are with them, etc., is brilliant. So because you don't see that in very many places. Hopefully that they've invested a lot of money, the family, into this store. And hopefully it works out for them. So they've got a lot to lose by getting this wrong, and they have the experience. So we'd ask you to grant the application as amended with the police.
Thank you very much. The committee will now retire to take its decision in a separate meeting room. An adjournment will be displayed during the deliberation. You're welcome to remain in the hearing. I'll stop that again. You're welcome to remain in the meeting to hear the committee's decision. However, this may take some time. If you don't want to wait, a summary decision will be published on the council's website tomorrow. Can I ask members to turn off their video, mute their microphones, and join the private meeting for deliberations? Thank you.
All right, Adrian.
Muted. I don't know if you keep on there, and I'm going to have a comfort break, and I'll come back. We've got no idea how long they're going to take. I did try and ask a question at the end to wonder how long it would be, but they were adjourned. We don't know, and it will be published tomorrow. So we'll have to see. But I'll leave it running, and I'll keep checking in to see when we get the decision. But if you do the same, hopefully one of us will catch it.
Yeah, no, I'll stay on as well then, Adrian. No problem. Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers, Adrian.
Mr. Afzal, can I please ask you to turn your camera off?
Okay, no problem.
Are we able to resume?
Yes, we have all the councillors back in. Thank you.
Is the applicant here?
They are.
Okay, I don't see them on the. Yeah.
We have it, yeah.
Yeah. I've got it. Thanks. Well, welcome back. The London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham summary decision of the licensing subcommittee, 11th of July 2023. Safe Breeze 159 to 161 North End Road, London, W14 9NH, the premises. The committee has considered an application for a new premises license application for a proposed convenience store / mini supermarket for the sale of alcohol off the premises only under the Licensing Act 2003, the application. In summary, the committee has decided, after taking into account all of the individual circumstances of this case and the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives, to 1, grant the application, 2, the license is subject to the conditions proposed by the police and agreed by the applicant, and the following conditions added by the committee. Single cans or bottles of beer or cider shall not be sold. Deliveries for customer orders shall be made to a building which is used for residential and or work purposes. Deliveries shall not be made to outdoor spaces. The license becomes operational with immediate effect. If problems are experienced, then an application for a review of the premises license can be made. A copy of the committee's full decision, including its reasons and the full text of the conditions added to the license, will be sent to the parties forthwith. If the applicant is unhappy with the decision, they are entitled to appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days from the date of notification of the full decision. I use this opportunity to thank everybody for assisting the hearing, the committee in its decisions, and I wish you all good night. Thank you.